Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is Chief Operating Officer of the British Franchise Association, Emily Price. Emily Price built her corporate career working alongside the senior leadership team in human resources at Barclaycard on global business transformation projects before joining the British Franchise Association in 2013. Emily is responsible for the operational activities at the British Franchise Association. She works closely with colleagues from across the franchise industry to deliver high-quality, industry-changing initiatives that positively impact the sector. She's a passionate advocate of great leadership, people development, and franchising, which serves her well in driving the strategic agenda for the association alongside BFA's CEO. Emily's main focus currently is modernizing the operational framework of the association with the BFA team to enable a more diverse and forward-thinking supportive organization with the main objective to become everyone's trusted partner in franchising. Welcome, Emily. We're so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Hi,
wow, Emily. I'm impressed already, Tracy. What do you think?
I'm so impressed. I mean, Emily, you have created such an impact, especially being a female, and not just a female, but a young female. I have to know who was your earliest role model that taught you to run head first towards the things that maybe you feared?
Oh gosh, well, that's a really easy one for me. Has to be my dad. So growing up, I had two brothers, both my parents really busy working, but my dad always had these crazy dreams and would be saying to mum, oh, I'm gonna learn to fly, or I'm gonna buy all these houses and have all these kind of like crazy dreams. But he taught me that it doesn't matter how big the dream. If you've got one, that's the main thing, and then you can start putting a plan in to get there. And I think, for myself and my brothers, really, that's how we've really gone about living our entire life. And we haven't just heard those words, we've seen him live that out, and we've seen what can happen when you put that sort of plan and take that approach. And time after time, we've seen what he's been able to do, and that's even still so. He's retired and he's still doing it now. So yeah, so amazing kind of an inspirational, but also a very steady mind and support mechanism to be able to go and draw ideas and bounce things around with as well. So yeah, it's my dad.
What a blessing to have him in your life. Beautiful.
It's a blessing. I like how you put it, these crazy dreams, but you translated it into big, bodacious goals. That he had big, bodacious goals and he went after them, and you got to observe him going after these dreams, these goals, these aspirations that he had, and it inspired you to do the same. Were there any big, bodacious goals that he had or you had that you're going, no way, or that he struggled to attain? Or there was a lesson in the actual process where you're watching him go after something and you're watching him either succeed or not succeed. Were there any lessons in that overall process of tenacity and grit and commitment and focus and all of those kinds of things?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's a very traditional family. So Dad's dad was a policeman. So naturally, it was the era where you followed in your father's footsteps. So he went into the force and was a policeman, but he really knew from quite an early age that he wanted to fly planes. And one of the things that I think is amazing about him is he considers everybody's feelings around him, but he doesn't allow that to dictate his decisions. So although very empathetic towards people, folks were saying, you'll never be able to do that, Steve. Don't be silly. That's a ridiculous idea. But he didn't let that faze him. He just got on in the background, quietly beavering away, working towards the goal. And you know, we saw that hard work happen. It did mean that as youngsters, we didn't really see him as much, but it kind of didn't matter. And I respect him all the more now, older. I don't resent him for that at all, because he was going out and really striving for this amazing life for us all. So I think that some of the lessons that came out of that on reflection is, you know, absolutely take on board, you know, other people's thoughts, but don't let that drive your actions, because otherwise you care too much about what everyone else wants for you instead of really what you want to go and do. But also, you know, just keep your eye on that goal. There will be knocks along the way. You know, I think at that point we went through some form of financial crash, and it could have just been a case of, oh, I'll stick to what I know and stay where I am. But no, he pushed out with that risk and carried on, and ended up buying a flying school with 11 planes and teaching people aerobatics and doing amazing shows. And we had amazing days out supporting him. So, you know, it really is that's when you've got someone like that in your life. I think you can't question. It doesn't matter what the goal is. You just go for it, and you know, just go for it and strive towards it, and make sure the support's around you to achieve it.
That sounds like such an interesting childhood.
It was.
Wow.
We got to meet some interesting people as well. So yeah, no, it was really good.
It's incredible. What were some of the other childhood experiences that you had that shaped your leadership?
Well, I think, you know, obviously that's my dad, but on the other side of this, you know, they say behind every, you know, great man is a strong woman and all of that. You know, we had my mum, and mum really, she really was the anchor for the family. You know, she was there supporting dad through every crazy decision, but really looking after us and nurturing us as children, and considering what we needed and what the family needed. And you know, I think it goes to show that actually, and I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier on, but actually that proved to me that when you get that team dynamic right, everything can work well. So although dad was out doing his thing, mum was in looking after us, and the balance was perfect. And so we saw real teamwork in action, and people achieving that together, whether they were kind of in the limelight or not, it didn't matter. So I think, you know, that probably, until this moment, I probably hadn't even recognized that, but that is definitely a thing.
That is a thing. That's a thing, right?
Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful to think about this, because here's your father with these big bodacious dreams, with a wife who says, I may not understand those dreams, but I believe in you and I'm going to support you. And the entire family is going to come around you to help you achieve these goals. So indirectly, through osmosis almost, you learned two valuable lessons: how to set big goals and to do whatever it takes to get there, and that oftentimes it takes a team to get there, and that part is important also.
Yeah, and a lot of communication, I will say, because it's not always great and smooth sailing. But as a family, if ever there was a problem, we ran into an issue, we always talk about it. You put it on the table, problem shared, problem halved. So we are talkers. It's a good thing.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you grew up, right? At some point you grew up and you went out into the big wide world of business. So what was your first experiences in the world of business?
My first experience was probably quite scary, because I didn't know what I wanted to do to begin with. So I knew that I needed to take on challenge, and I needed to start expanding some of my comfort zones. And I was incredibly shy as a child. I am quite shy still now, but I was very shy. It held me back a lot in school. But I knew that I needed to start kind of coming out of my shell a bit. So I went and got a job in a call center, you know, spent all day, every day on the phone, which is something I feared. I didn't like picking up the phone. I don't know why. It's a bit strange. It was a phobia. But I spent all day dialing out, answering the phone, dealing with escalations. I was actually quite good at it.
Wow.
If you put your mind to something and work on the weakness, you can become good at those things. So I guess I realized that when it wasn't so scary facing a fear, and actually once you've done it, you're like, what was I even worried about? All of a sudden the skills are built and you're starting to feel good about it. It makes you then realize, although that was just a small thing, was big for me at the time, but it makes you realize that you can take on more of these things. Like, it doesn't matter. So I think gradually through life, that is what I've then done. I've gone and I've taken on things and not been scared to do the secondment or move into a different team and take on another project. Just take on whatever is given to you as an opportunity to learn. And I think that's the approach I've taken, which is why I've maybe fast-tracked through my 20s in my career and did what I did when I was at Barclaycard around all of the different sort of departments and things.
I love that. I heard recently that the things that hold us back when we're younger and the things that we go through are actually those things, those items that we're geared towards in our calling to help others, to teach others. And what I hear is a lot of this overcoming of these certain fears to develop these amazing business skills that you have today. How do you impart those skills on others?
Yeah, well, I think I feel hugely privileged to hold the position that I do. And the reason I do is because of exactly what you're describing now. This my position and the business really is a vehicle to be able to provide opportunity. And so every single person that works with me, one of the missions that I have, and I've made that statement to my boss, is, I really want to be an employer of choice. Why do I want to? Well, not because of anything other than I want people to be able to come to the BFA, and it doesn't matter how short or long their journey are with us, they leave better than they arrived, whether that is from a psychological perspective, increased skills, a better confidence, whatever that might be. Every single person has the opportunity to be amazing at something in this life. And sometimes I think, you just need somebody to be able to see that and believe in you. And even if that is, your line manager or your colleague, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. You just need someone to believe in you, to give you that something to grow from. And so I think, just in everyday life right now, in everything that I do at work, it's what I'm looking to achieve all of the time with every interaction. Is there an opportunity for, would this project suit somebody because that's what they're hoping to develop into? Or we don't box off role profiles at the BFA or anything like that. This business has so much work to do and so many people that could step up to that. And we will select based on personal development and needs at the time, and to try and help people, a little bit further on their career journey.
So you're actually tapping into something we love to talk about here, which is the passion and purpose side. This leadership side of you, as a shy person, was there an event or something that happened, or a series of events that happened that moved you into this kind of, I'm going to call it, servant leadership attitude that you have, which is, how can I help others step into their true gifting, right, and become all that they are meant to be? Was there anything that, were you always a leader, I guess is the question I'm asking, or were there a series of events or an event that uncovered this leader within you?
I think naturally I've had it in me, but probably didn't realize it was there. So one of my strongest values is loyalty. So I really care about the people that are in my line of sight, if that makes sense. Anybody that is connected to me, I really care about them, and their well-being and their success. So that was always been there in the background.
For the heart.
Yeah, definitely. But I did go back. So I went to Warwick Business School. It's about 5 years ago now. And I did my graduate diploma in applied management. And some of the leadership themes that came through that, you know, we went through a lot of different Harvard modules and theories. And it's where I started to look at kind of the why of business and all of the things like with Simon Sinek, and really just love following and reading up about all things leadership now. But I think that going through that program and that 2 years and doing my dissertation just really made me realize how much this is in me. And yes, of course, everybody keeps learning, but I just felt this pull. I don't know how to explain it other than this is where I'm meant to be going. And it was just drawing me in, and I could write about it for hours, you know, and all sorts of things. I just love it. Right up to the point that now I'm obviously looking to do the executive coaching with the ILM, and I just want to keep learning, and I want to be able to help people overcome their barriers. And yeah, I don't think there was one point in time that made that happen. I think it's just a series of different opportunities and experiences that's made me head in this direction even more.
This part that I'm observing in you that's so beautiful is you called it a pulling, and I think oftentimes our passion, our purpose, which in this case is a big purpose, which is to bring out the best in people, was always there. It was a little seedling, but you felt prompted, you felt pulled, and each day became more inspired and more passionate and more curious and desiring to learn, and what else can I learn that can help others. So it's interesting that you're able to articulate it so beautifully, that you were being pulled into your, I'm going to call it your purpose. I mean, I'm sorry, BFA has a massive purpose behind it, and you're the right person in the right place at the right time to help lead them in that direction. But I just find it beautiful that you knew it was there, but a series of events stimulated it and pulled you, and I call it prompting, for lack of a better way of describing it. So thank you for articulating it so beautifully.
Oh, no worries.
So I wonder if we could shift gears a little bit, and how this leadership part of you, this purpose part of you, plays into the British Franchise Association, the overall mission of the British Franchise Association, your big task that you have to undertake in being a leader within that. So talk to us a little bit about the BFA and where the BFA is going in your role within it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been around since 1977, so it is quite an old sort of establishment. And the CEO, she got the CEO role about 5 years ago, and it was at a very similar time that I was put into, or given the opportunity to do the Chief Operating Officer role. And together we are on this journey to, I guess, modernize the association. The key things that we do, we educate and we embed high quality standards within the UK industry, but also we are promoting franchising far and wide. So not only the members and promoting them, but also providing opportunities to people that actually franchising may be an amazing tool for their future, but they don't even understand what that looks like yet. So there's kind of those three core areas: the education, the standards, and the promotion. And I guess to date, there's already been a lot of legwork done to modernize and move us forward, and kind of help us transition with what's going on generally across the economy and across the industry, not just in the UK, but globally. So one of the things that we did about 2 years ago, and we were global leaders in this, is we created a membership category, so a framework for a UK developer. So any large international brand that was looking to come into the UK, we designed a sort of an application criteria, which meant that we would be checking the standards of the international brand and educating them on the UK environment, and then helping them to understand the appropriate transitional phases to come in and establish a pilot and build well on great foundations in the UK. And that is one of because the BFA, although there's a lot of franchisors in the UK, they have to undertake this accreditation process. You cannot just turn up and pay money and join. So it does mean that there are some people that would like to join, but actually have a little bit of work to do. So at this point, we become, you know, not consultants with them, but a bit of advisory. So we're helping people, we understand their businesses, and then we try and tap them in with different people that are going to be able to support them and help them build a better, stronger business. So there's lots of things that we've been developing to take us to that next level, to put us on the map, so that people can understand and we can start sort of, I guess, building relationships from much earlier stages with franchisors, whether they are that international or whether they are very new in the UK and just need help kind of, how do I even franchise?
Right.
But then we've also got quite a lot of other things that we've been developing out. So we've just done the very first in the UK. This is first the Franchise Leadership Conference. So really focusing on, I guess this has been born out of the importance of leadership in franchising, and the fact that historically franchise businesses have had quite old-fashioned kind of boardroom dynamics, and there really does need to be, even now there are still a lot of well-known brands that are operating quite old-fashioned structures, and I think it's fair to say missing huge opportunities in doing so. You know, if you have the right franchise network and a healthy communication and network, you can use those franchisees as a nice extension to the board table in a controlled way, but because they're at grassroots level, so they can identify the challenges on the ground.
Right.
And all too many times we were seeing decisions being made at the board table, and then that being forced onto the network. There was no consultation. People weren't on that journey. And that's when we started to see, you know, some real upsets in whole brand networks and situations. And of course, because of the work we do and the reaccreditations and things that we do, we were seeing this come through. So that's why we've introduced the leadership conference. We also have, I think you call it CFE over there. We've got a QFP, which is a Qualified Franchise Professional Program. Good. And we are now developing a QFL, which is the Qualified Franchise Leader Program. So it's for leadership level, so that we can, again, educate at that level, offer support, mentoring, and help connect at that level. So I think where the association used to be quite maybe basic in its education and just dealing with more transactional challenges and subjects, we're now dealing with more strategic and future thinking scenarios for the industry to try and help our franchisors make informed decisions with that, all that collective knowledge that we have the opportunity to gather, all of that data and insight stuff. So yeah, it's very exciting. We are going on that journey, and I guess when we come through, when Pip and I sit and we decide what we're going to be doing for the year ahead, it's absolutely her and I that are coming up with the ideas and the initiatives that we're going to put in place to take us to that kind of next level. And yeah, there's just, it's exciting. There's a lot of creativity involved, a lot of innovation, and of course a huge non-exec board of members to consult with, but they are amazing, by the way. We have an amazing board and some fantastic people on it that can help us kind of guide us with those decisions and go on that journey. But the framework itself and the modernization of it, I don't even want to say that's the boring part of it, because that's the nuts and bolts. But when that's right, and it's getting there, it's almost right now, then it means that we can really thrive and build on that. And we've got some fantastic foundations to grow from. And that can only be good for the franchisors, because we're not here for us, we're here for them. So yeah, it's a big old journey that we're going on, but it's a fun one, and it's you've got to have fun along the way, right? So
I'm amazed with your journey, Emily. Just again, how you came in as a young female in a predominantly male dominated industry, so to speak, and how you are one of the leaders of all of the disruption that is going on in that industry. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've helped to bypass some of the biases and the agendas and emotions in that industry?
Yeah, this has been something of a challenge for me to overcome, because I took the position, and I remember, so it was in the April that I took the position, and I remember in the December we have an annual general meeting, and that meeting is always, it's all the lawyers and the accountants and the big franchisors in the room, and I don't particularly enjoy the limelight. I'll do it, and as long as I know my subject matter, I'll get up and I'm absolutely fine, and it's autopilot mode on, but I'll be nervous and I'm not particularly comfortable in that environment. But anyway, I had to get up, and I was doing the operational report for that year for the business, and so it's like half an hour talking about the future strategy and all of our results. And I remember really worrying, because I felt like I'd be getting up on stage and being judged by a room of people, which they are quite judgmental. Let's be honest, why wouldn't they be? They're paying their subscriptions, they want to have a decent service, they want to know that our strategy is right, and so you get on stage and you do get challenged. That's the nature of it. But I remember doing that, and I went up and I did it, and afterwards I came off stage, and I had 3 of our board members, they were male, came up and said, that was amazing, well done, really kind of like made me feel good about it. And even then, and I don't know whether this is because I'm a woman or whatever, I don't really know, but even then, in the back of my mind, I was like, are they just saying that to make me feel better? Like, we do that, don't we? It's silly, really. But yeah, I think that was my first moment when I was like, well, actually, no, I've been given this job, and I really gave myself a good talking to. I had to really dig deep and look in the mirror and go, Emily, for goodness sake, if you keep doubting yourself, how is anybody else going to believe in you? You need to believe in yourself first, and then other people will follow. And if you can't talk with that real passion and fire in your belly, then why should anyone even be listening to you, So these are just some of the things, I guess, that I was shocked into telling myself, and they were sort of self lessons, if you like. But then there are, as I've progressed through, there is such a supportive industry anyway. Franchising is, I don't think it matters where you go in the world. It's like a family, isn't it? And there were just some amazing people within the industry, whether that was on the board or within the membership, that just were there. If I wanted to soundboard or ask questions, or I was doing a project and they wanted to kind of work, I wanted to work with somebody on that. People were just really, really supportive of that. And I think now I'm in a place, obviously I'm quite a few years on now, so I'm kind of a lot more confident and know what I can do, and have proven what I can do, so I feel better about that. But actually, I think quite a lot of people would have easily just kind of like shied away from some of those challenges, because it wasn't particularly arms open waiting. When Pip and I were put into these senior positions, I'll be really honest, because that's all I ever am, there were some people within the industry that were quite kind of are they going to be able to do what we need them to do? And we knew that was happening. So it does lay that kind of like little bit of a question in your mind, but you just have to get on with it. It's like what I mentioned earlier about, you have that goal, and you can of course listen, but don't let that dictate your action, because you miss out on so much opportunity doing that. And it's the experience. Everything's an experience, and it's those experiences that make us who we are. So if we shy away from them, we're going to be quite a small version of what we should be.
Right.
True.
I think as women, we all go through, especially when we step into a big role like you're in with the British Franchise Association, we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome, and we have to have that self-talk. just like you did with yourself, which was, I have to have the passion, I have to believe in myself before others can believe in me. But I also thought it was interesting as you were telling that story that a piece of your dad came out, which was listening to the feedback of those that supported you as well as those that were judging you or critiquing you. You listened, but it didn't change the goal or the direction or where you were going. It just inspired you to keep going. You didn't let it deter. Even the positive feedback you took just as feedback, right? It was just feedback.
Yeah.
And is it getting me where I need to go and what this organization ultimately wants to provide for those that we serve, which are, of course, our franchisors and other members that you have. So not everybody is an early adopter, and you and your organization are making some changes to modernize things, to bring us into the 21st century, right? So when you have folks that are slow to adopt or slow to go, okay, I like where you're going, is there things that you have done or the organization has done that brings them on board? I know you're great at communication and, you know, stating here's where we're going, to be very clear, but as a leader, those folks that are dragging their feet, what can you do to sort of encourage them to get on board, to take this industry to the next level?
I think, you know, it's just understanding why they're not. So it's having an honest conversation. So we tend to, there are different categories of members and things within the organization. So typically what we would do if there were any that were really not getting on board, let's say it was a board member, for example, that didn't want to, we've just launched something, franchisee membership. So franchisees are free to join the association now. And one of the challenges that's come out of that is that potentially if the franchisees are members with ourselves, there are some franchisors that think that might sort of create a divide, you know, that there might be this and them, and tittle tattle might go on over here, and it might make them not look so good because if we find out things about what's going on, all sorts of concerns. But ultimately, this is about representation and protection of the industry. So if we can be really clear about what our purpose is in this initiative, but then go out and understand what their challenges are, and why they're feeling that way, sometimes we find that actually just that, it's this trusted partner piece coming to the front again, you know, just that relationship build and that kind of mutual ground to build from, and understanding that helps. And that is simply a conversation. It's not something you would do in a mass email or anything like that. It's just got to be a one-to-one, even if that means picking people off and doing it like at their own pace, whether they're comfortable doing it face-to-face or whether they want a phone call, in their way, at their time, at their pace, but understanding the challenge. And so if there's an initiative that isn't really going the way that we'd like it to go, or we need to build more momentum, Pip and I will we will take that, we take responsibility for that. So we will go and have those meetings with those people and you know, understand more. And actually you tend to find that those that maybe were a bit more nervous then become your biggest fans and supporters because you've took the time to build the rapport, and the rapport is so important, isn't it? At the end of the day, the amount of times that we go into a meeting, we'll talk about membership and someone will go, well, you know, I'm already sold. Like, it's not about the money, it's not about that, it's about who's sitting in front of me and your team. That's what it's about, what you're doing for us. And so yeah, it's all about relationships, isn't it?
To my own heart. Wow, Emily, you are a wealth of knowledge, and what's so fascinating for me is you're just this beautiful balance of heart and head, right? It's your heart leads you. It's definitely your heart. You have this bigger mission, this bigger purpose, this burning desire to make a difference in an industry, to take it to the next level. But you also have this pragmatic, logical side of you that does it in a organized way, right? You think things through. So it's this beautiful, beautiful balance that you have that gets you where you want to go. So we only have a couple of more minutes. If you had one big bodacious goal for the British Franchise Association and our members, both franchisors and franchisees, which by the way, in the US, we do have franchisees in the IFA, and we had that same argument that you talked about with, oh, there's going to be a conflict here. So, but what is, if you had this massive vision or this next big goal, what is your next big goal for the BFA? If you could accomplish this, woohoo, we'd all sit here and do a happy dance.
Yeah, I think, it'd be to represent the entire industry. We don't represent the entire industry. We have about a third penetration of UK franchisors, and it would just be to represent all, to find a way to have that kind of, inclusivity that means that we can represent all. There are really no barriers, or should be no barriers, to anybody entering, and then they are happy, and we can evidence and generate some amazing insights as a collective. Collective ambition means, as a collective, right? So we should all be in that tent. And I think, the potential, if that were the case, is huge for everybody. Least of all us, really, ironically. It's beneficial for the industry. It has nothing really to do with the association, but the amount of data and insights and value and collective promotion and all sorts of things that could be done around that is incredible. And I think that would then put truly franchising on the map in the UK.
Wonderful.
Oh.
I love that term, collective ambition. That is so powerful. And Emily, you are on a big mission, and my money is on you. I believe you are going to get this done.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
I do too. I think you have all that it takes. You're building the team around you, but you're very clear on the mission, and I agree. Collective ambition, collective talent will build something very, very beautiful. The BFA is already doing big things, so it'll be interesting to see the next few years what happens. So as we wrap up, Emily, to get hold of you, if anyone, a franchisor or a franchisee, anyone wanted to learn more about the British Franchise Association, about Emily Price, how would they get hold of you?
Yeah, they just email me. So it's emilyprice@thebfa.org. I'm always happy to pick up with anybody that's interested. I'm on LinkedIn, Emily Price, so they can find me there, connect with me there, message me there. Yeah, anything I can do to help. And I love connecting, whether it's to talk leadership and subjects like we've spoken about today, or just talk franchising and advice and guidance.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're an
Thank you for having
inspiration.
me.
You're an inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me and inviting me.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us today on The Franchise Woman, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. We'll see you next week on another show. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks.